folks hear me? If you're in the atrium, please start to make your way in. This is the second meeting. You don't give me that look, you're coming, you're gonna pule. We're gonna open with pule, and Ha'iu Kimura, who's the executive director here at ʻImiloa, is going to pule for us. Thank you. Thank you for having us again.
Aloha he ai kako, mai komo I loko. It's good to see all of you here tonight. Just on behalf of the Hale, we're a Hale ʻImiloa that is part of I think our service to the community is just being a space where people can come and gather and share mana'o and learn from one another, even on very difficult conversations. So I really just want to say aloha on behalf of the Hale and turn it over to the actual host of the event. But please just join me in a little brief pule to open up this evening's event. Me ka mana'o e komo piha na mana'o oia i'o no ko kako aina aloha ma'ane I ma Hawaiʻi mo kupuni nei e ho'opuka ia me ka lohe, me ka apo, a me ka mana'o e pono ai keia aina. E ho'omalu kako auhea oko e nā kupuna, e nā aumakua, e nā mea kiaʻi e ho'oholomua ana I nā mea pau ma ke la au ke waiho nei I keia noi mamua o I ke iahiahi mamua o kono ho'i me ke noi e ho'okele a kiaʻi mai keia mau kuka ana I ho'oholo pono ia no ko kākou aina aloha ma Hawaiʻi nei. Ana o kou no e ho'ahu wale mai I nā mea e pono ai e lohe ia e apo ia. E lokahi no ho'i ma ka mana'o he kaiaulu e hapai mau ana e ho'ano mau ana I ko kākou aina o Hawaiʻi nei. Ano leila ke waiho ia nei keia mau mana'o I mua o keia papahana koʻikoʻi kuka o ke ahiahi me ka mana'o holomua ma ka inoa o nā kupuna na aumakua na mana pau e ola ai. Mahalo nui, amama ua noa.
Mahalo, that's perfect. Mahalo, thank you very much for having us yet again. A little bit of housekeeping. So for those who are unfamiliar with the space, the restrooms are, if you go out and then turn left down that hall, there's restrooms. If you have not signed up, please sign up at the front desk. If you would like to speak, there are tickets. There are tickets at this desk, so we are going to call you up by number. So it's going to start at number 50, and then I'm just going to call you up starting with number 50. So please do have your tickets available. For those that are watching online, there is a phone number that you can call and leave a message at. So it doesn't bring you into this meeting, but you can call. The phone line is only open until midnight tonight. So if you are watching or if you are here and you don't want to get up and give testimony live, please call. The number is 808-515-5518. So again, you can call, leave a message that will be considered an official comment. It will be transcribed and then including in the comments to this second draft EIS. Additionally, there is a website. I believe it's on the live stream. There's also a fact sheet here. There is a website where you can put your comments online or you can send in written comments until June 7th. So the deadline for comments is June 7th. The phone lines are open till midnight tonight. And then tonight, again, we'll call you up by number. We're targeting 3 minutes apiece, but if you watched last night, I do kind of make it flexible. We want to make sure people are using the time. So what I like to do is go through everybody who's here, give everybody a chance to speak at least once. If there's additional time, by all means, you can come back up, take another 3 minutes. But I'm to ask how many tickets have been taken, just so I have a number and kind of give a little bit of flex. But okay, so I tend to let you guys have more than the 3 minutes just to make sure, but again, at some point I'll move you on just so everybody who would like to speak has an opportunity to speak at least once. Additionally, there are forms here. If you would like to fill out a form with comments, those would be considered written comments as well. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to Colonel McGonigal, who is the commander and can do a bit of an introduction as well.
Right. Aloha and good evening. I'm Colonel Stephen McGonigal, the Garrison Commander of U.S. Army Garrison, Hawaii. I'm responsible for the U.S. Army installations here on Hawaii Island and on Oahu. Thank you all for being here tonight. Tonight's meeting is about hearing your comments on the Army Training Land Retention at Pōhakuloa Training Area, Second Draft EIS. The document was developed in accordance with the National Environmental Policy Act and the Hawaii Environmental Policy Act. And we are following both NEPA and HEPA processes as we complete this environmental impact statement. Hawaii is important to the military, and we are that being here comes with the responsibility of being good neighbors and stewards of the land that we have the privilege to train on. Because of its location, the state of Hawaii is vital for the national defense as a logistics hub and for rapid troop deployment. Hawaii's unique Pacific training environment cannot be replicated in any other U.S. state and are critical to prepare troops to fight as they train. The Army's presence in Hawaii is vital to our nation's strategy to deter conflict and maintain a safe, stable, and secure Indo-Pacific. In 2022, the U.S. military employed over 68,000 people in the state and spent approximately $8.8 billion in Hawaii, more than half of it in personal wages. The mission of PTA is to provide a quality joint combined arms facility that provides logistics, public works, airfield support, and environmental and cultural stewardship in support of the USAPAC training strategy while maintaining an enduring partnership with the Hawaii Island community. The Army currently leases 23,000 acres of land at Pōhakuloa training area from the state of Hawaii. The lease expires in 2029. We're doing the EIS now because this is one of the steps in the multi-year process. I believe that this is the most important step in the process because this allows us to take a hard look at the environmental impacts of the proposed action. It allows us to be transparent, and most importantly, it gives the opportunity to hear your comments and to listen to your recommendations on the proposed action and the EIS. In April of 2022, the Army published the draft EIS for this land retention effort. For those of you who reviewed and provided comments on the first draft, we thank you for your comments and we appreciate your continued participation. The Army published a second draft in response to the comments received from the public and state and federal agencies on the draft EIS. Our EIS team has been working diligently since then to ensure that substantive comments are adequately addressed in this second draft. Some changes that were made to the first draft include revising the proposed action to no longer retain 250 acres of land administered by the Department of Hawaiian Homelands and analyzing the impacts of a lease retention method in addition to the impacts of fee simple. The proposed action, the Army's retention of approximately 22,750 acres, is a real estate transaction that allows for the continuation of military activities, including training and our conservation management of cultural and natural resources that we have the privilege of caring for and protecting. The Army is not proposing new construction or changes in military training. The second draft EIS analyzes the environmental and socioeconomic impacts of 3 action alternatives and the no action alternative. The 3 action alternatives are maximum retention, modified retention, and minimum retention. The Army's preferred alternative is alternative 2, modified retention. The Army would retain approximately 19,700 acres of 23,000 acres of land leased from the state. Under Alternative 2, the Army would retain all U.S. government-owned utilities and associated access through the lands not retained. The EIS also analyzes the no-action alternative. Under the no-action alternative, the current leases would lapse in 2029. The Army would no longer have access to the state lands, and the Army's cultural and natural resource conservation efforts on those lands would cease. We have posters and members of our EIS team. The posters are located in a room down the hallway just past the restrooms to provide additional information about the EIS. If you've not had a chance to take a look at the posters and talk to our team, please do so. We also have a couple copies of the EIS in the same room available to review. Hard copies are also available for review at the Hilo and Kailua Kona Public Libraries, the Thelma Parker Memorial Public and School Library, as well as a Hawaii State Public Library on Oahu. You can also download a copy of the EIS from our website. As you may have read in the second draft EIS or heard during our 2 briefs to the Board of Land and Natural Resources, land exchange is a potential process to be used during land retention negotiations that would start after the EIS process is completed. Land exchange is not analyzed in the second draft as we are early in the planning stages, and lands to be exchanged have not yet been identified. Any land exchange would be addressed in separate future environmental compliance processes. The meeting is broadcast live on YouTube. For those of you who are not able to be here in person tonight, we have a phone line, as mentioned, available tonight. You can call 808-515-5518. Again, 808-515-5518, and leave your recorded message. For those of you that are here in person, again, we thank you for being here. Once we start, you can come up to the microphone to ensure that everyone's voice is heard. You each have 3 minutes to comment. We also have forms located in the main entrance that you can fill out for a written comment. Our comment period is open until June 7th. You can email, submit your comments on our website, or by mailing. The website, email, and mailing addresses are located on the flyer that is available in the lobby. Oral comments provided during this meeting will be transcribed, and all comments will be incorporated into the final EIS. Before we start the comment portion of tonight's meeting, I'll turn it over to Lieutenant Colonel Tim Alvarado, the commander of Pōhakuloa Training Area. Oh.
Uncle Pat, come sit in the front. We saved them for you.
Aloha, everyone. Thank you all for taking the time to be here tonight. I'm Lieutenant Colonel Tim Alvarado. I've been the Garrison Commander here at Pōhakuloa Training Area. As the Garrison Commander, I oversee the installation in the training area totaling 133,000 acres, which includes 23,000 acres of state leased land. At PTA, we help ensure our armed forces, its men and women in uniform, are trained to a high standard and prepared to support and defend our nation as needed. PTA is very important to local Department of Defense law enforcement training in Hawaii. It's used by the Army, Marine Corps, Navy, Air Force, Army Reserve, Hawaii Army and Air National Guard, as well as state and local government agencies such as the Hawaii Police Department, Hawaii Civil Defense Agency, as well as the State Office of Homeland Security, Hawaii Emergency First Responders, and also the Emergency Management Agency. PTA is particularly important to the U.S. military because it's the only area in Hawaii that supports large unit collective live fire and maneuver training. It's the largest contiguous live fire range and maneuver training area in Hawaii, the primary tactical training area for Hawaii-based units, and the only training area in Hawaii able to support weapon systems training at their maximum capabilities. PTA supports joint multinational exercises to ensure that the U.S. military and allied nations can effectively work together. The 23,000 acres of state lands at PTA are vital to the Army, other DoD forces, and local agencies to meet their training requirements and mission readiness. The state land provides access among the U.S. government-managed portions of PTA. PTA supports numerous training facilities and capabilities that are essential to the Army and other military services, and contains some key training facilities that are not available elsewhere, and that also cannot be replicated within the U.S. government-managed portion of PTA due to its operational, safety, and environmental constraints. Given the importance of PTA, we understand that it's our duty to be a steward of the land by caring for the many resources, which includes all of our cultural and natural resources resident to PTA. Environmental training and soldier orientation is mandatory for all units to train on Army training areas in Hawaii, and we ensure that that is enforced. The Army's natural resource staff manages and protects more than 120 threatened and endangered species across Hawaii. At PTA, we have 15 fenced conservation units that protect 37,000 acres of native habitat. That equates to approximately 86 miles of fencing. And as of 2017, all of the conservation units have been ungulate-free. And to note, as a result of those fenced areas, our native ohia forests remain rod-free to date. The Army's cultural resources staff at PTA manages and protects more than 1,200 archaeological sites, 100 of which are on state leased land. And the Army in Hawaii possesses a wildland fire capability in support of its natural resources program that we continue to improve and integrate with our local, state, and federal agencies. The Army protects training land in Hawaii by investing over $12 million annually in environmental stewardship and programs that fund these efforts. In addition to our cultural and natural resources programs, the Army's collaborative partnerships through the DoD's Readiness and Environmental Protection Integration Program, or otherwise known as REPI, has helped to sustain and protect threatened and endangered species and preserve essential habitats and landscapes. Through 2022, REPI executed approximately $131 million by partnering with conservation entities to protect and/or manage habitat in Hawaii. We understand what the land provides, and we have an obligation to help care for it. These methods are but a few ways we maintain that stewardship and high level of care. In addition to our land stewardship, we also commit our support to the community in other ways, such as our emergency response. PTA has a long-standing partnership with the Hawaii Fire Department to keep the Hawaii Island community safe. PTA provides valuable emergency support to the community within a 450 square mile radius in the Saddle region, and is often the first to respond to incidents on the Daniel K. Inouye Highway. In 2022, the Army responded to 121 emergency calls ranging from lost hikers, wildland fires, motor vehicle accidents, and general caring for injured and medically distressed persons. In addition, PTA also hosts various training events that include many interagency law enforcement officers, as well as firefighters across the county, state, and other federal agencies. PTA stands committed in supporting our men and women in uniform, our many agency partners, and our local communities. Tonight's meeting is about your comments on the second draft EIS, so that we may further understand the community's input and thoughts on the proposed and recommended actions. Thank you, and we look forward to your comments. We appreciate your time. Mahalo.
Okay, the number of people wanting to provide testimony is creeping a little bit up. So again, I will definitely give you flexibility, but if you can try to keep it as close to 3 minutes as possible. I just want to make sure everybody has a chance to provide testimony at least once. And then absolutely, if we have additional time, you are more than welcome to come back up. So we're going to start with number 50. Please state your name when you come to the mic. Thank you. Oh, no, you can keep it. There might be prizes later. No, it's okay. You're good. Thank you. I appreciate that, though. I trust you.
Thanks, Aloha and good evening. Aloha and good evening, everyone. My name is Miles Yoshioka. I represent the members of the Hawaii Island Chamber of Commerce. Our organization fully supports the U.S. military's training mission at Pōhakuloa training area. Our organization represents over 330 member businesses, nonprofit organizations, and professionals from East Hawaii and beyond. Many of our neighbors, family members, and friends in uniform in the Hawaii Army and Air National Guard, U.S. Army Reserves, and Hawaii County Police and Fire Departments are trained at Pōhakuloa. Guardsmen are able to gain critical experience here at home at this premier training facility rather than facing long-term deployments on the mainland. Additionally, PTA fire and rescue team members are the first responders on the Saddle Road area, handling emergencies in the first critical minutes, often resulting in saved lives. From responding to car accidents, finding lost hunters and hikers, to fighting wildfires alongside HFD and state personnel, we are grateful PTA is around. As part of the stewardship of the land, the Army manages the preservation of dozens of endangered plants and animals, which includes propagating rare native plants and stocking a seed bank. A team of archaeologists manage over 1,200 archaeological sites with monitoring, preservation, and surveying to find additional areas. Units visiting PTA are briefed on arrival and are required to adhere to natural and cultural restrictions on base and leave the training areas clean after each exercise. The military boosts our local economy through military contracts with Hawaii Island-based companies, community services and support for nonprofits, and patronage of our local businesses. A large majority of the personnel who work at PTA year-round are civilians who live in our communities, like Waimea, Waikoloa, Hilo, or Puna. A few years back, I had the opportunity to visit a live training exercise out in the field at PTA. Our group was briefed by a young man, a captain, who was about my own kid's age. He was responsible for leading a company, and I remember being impressed by how dedicated he was to the safety and well-being of his soldiers. I remember getting a little emotional as I put myself in this officer's parents' shoes and thinking how much they would want their kid to get the best training and experience he can get under the most lifelike battle conditions in a location that has the climate and terrain he may have to face in battle. All this so he is best prepared to deal with whatever challenges come his way, and then be able to bring his soldiers and himself back home to his families. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Number 51.
Yeah. Aloha ahiahi kako.
Please state your name.
Corey Harden. The Army should not be allowed to retain the land. The military is a bad actor that has caused irreversible harm to the land and waters throughout Hawaii. Kapukaki, Red Hill, contaminated groundwater and sickened thousands of people on numerous former military sites statewide, and in the impact area of Pōhakuloa, toxins and unexploded ordnance have been left languishing for decades. The Army says it'll clean up Pōhakuloa when and if the base is closed, but the cleanup at Kaho'olawe, Waikane, and Makua has been woefully inadequate. The Army's current lease does not require them to fully clean up the land if the cost of cleanup would be more than the fair market value of the land. So they can lay waste to the land with unexploded ordnance, toxins, and wildfires, and then claim the market value is now little or nothing and never have the money to clean up. Military projects bring money to Hawaii Island, but economic analysis do not include the eventual cost of cleanup after base closure, which is going to be astronomical. It does not cover the cost of lost opportunities for other uses of the land. Other uses might be agriculture that provides food from crops and livestock, plus building materials, renewable energy projects, a park that preserves cultural resources, educates the public about history and culture, and allows outdoor activities. The military keeps saying, oh, we can't manage about Pōhakuloa, but they made the same claims about Kaho'olawe and about Kapukaki, Red Hill. Kau Kaujihiro of Oahu says, the Army seeks to change Aina into the commodity of real estate. This trick of abstraction is one of the insidious weapons settler colonial states use to alienate indigenous people from their ancestral connections to the land. And the testifier at a meeting, Martin Kamaka, said, the Aina is not a commodity that can be bought and sold with no thought as to its spiritual, historical, emotional, and physical connections to Kanaka Maoli and our Lahui. The Army should restore the land and return it to the people. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Number 52, and then he's just going to be adjusting the mic, and for two reasons. One, so the recording is clear for the court reporter who will be transcribing, and then also that we have clear audio for the streaming. So that's why he'll be just making sure you're talking to the mic. No, it's just, we're just receiving comment. Sorry, Craig, sorry. You can ask them after, but it's for the 3 minutes, it's just to receive comments. What do you mean They cannot respond now, though. Sorry. But thank you. I appreciate you asking the question.
I gotta go, sorry, but how many people here, press, the photo op, ready? How many people oppose Pōhakuloa? Okay, so that's about 90% of the crowd here in Hilo oppose. All right.
Thank you, Craig. Thank you for coming. Okay.
Excuse my voice. Aloha, ahi ahi kako. And I respectfully ask for 5 minutes and I'll be done. I am Nana Honua Manuel. My political national status is that of American citizen. As a child born in occupied Hawaii takes on the political national status of her parents. I live with my Kanaka Maoli husband, Michael, in Waikahikai Iki Puna, Mokuo Keawe. We have 4 grown children and 7 mo'opuna. My participation in this forum does not constitute my free and informed consent. We listened to last night's Waimea hearing this morning, and we struggled with deja vu as we repeated the 2022 hearings. 2024 EIS is just as deficient or even more so than the 2022 due to the lack of adequate response to the 2022 comments. Why come, as Kumu Kalani Flores and Kumu Puake said, why come? But as a wise and Manafukiai, Helani Sonora Pali said, we participate to leave a record, just as our kupuna did, who signed the ku'e petitions, so that our mo'opunas will know of our resistance. As I contemplated attending tonight and considered what I could possibly say that had not already been said repeatedly through history, I began to cry. Deep, hard, painful, gut-wrenching tears, and I wondered where it was coming from. I realized intergenerational trauma is rooted in never-ending trauma. Trauma without an endpoint does not allow for individuals or collectives to grieve properly, and the trauma continues endlessly. As the tears flowed, my thoughts went to thoughts of the strongest, kindest, most generous man I've ever known, or one of them, my father-in-law, David Maiola Manuel Sr. We lost Papa to small cell carcinoma in July of 2000. He uahala in the most painful, cruel, and undignified way here at Hilo Hospital. Paralyzed from C4 in his neck down and submitted to endless procedures for 3 weeks after being diagnosed terminally ill on day 3. David Maiola Manuel Sr. served in the US Army during the Korean War. He was stationed in Japan and he saw the local people digging through the kitchen garbage for food that the military threw away. Papa said he never saw that before in his life. He would wrap up care packages of good food and stash it for those who came to scavenge. All his life, he never wasted food and he fed everyone. In 2013, we learned of the Atomic Workers Settlement. Michael and his living siblings applied. Through that process, we learned that his ohana was eligible for a settlement if Papa had even spent 24 hours on a ship down under and later developed small cell carcinoma lung cancer. This cancer was from his exposure to radiation from the atomic bombs that the US military was testing in the South Pacific. Papa was on a ship and he watched behind DOD-issued goggles as atomic bombs were detonated. Papa spent 5 years down under at Christmas Island, Enowetok, and Johnson Island, minus the 5 one-week visits home each year. So what does a wrongful death settlement from the DOE, Department of Energy, have to do with Pōhakuloa DEIS 2.0? Are we lucky that this DEIS doesn't say that the damage and impact at Pōhakuloa is so detrimental and so severe that 65 more years won't matter? That you could just trade some other stolen lands for these stolen lands and then own them fee simple forever? Why do we need to distinguish between the different tentacles of the he'e? What does Kapukaki have to do with Pōhakuloa training area? Our nephew, the former DLNR Deputy Director of Water, told me that if the Oahu aquifer is contaminated, 1 million people will need to relocate. He said Mokuo Keawe is the only island with enough water and land to house them. But what if the aquifers of this island have already been contaminated by Pōhakuloa training area? Where is the data from the 2015 test well at Pōhakuloa training area? Why are you still chucking in water? This is my never-ending nightmare, that the occupier, the US military, will return the kingdom Aina and Vai to the Lahui when it is all poison and uninhabitable like Koho'olawe. No loss to you, as it was never yours to begin with. Please, clean up and deoccupy Hawaii while there is still undesecrated Aina and Vai to return to the Lahui who remain steadfast, Oya'i'o. To be clear, no retention, no lease renewal, no real estate action. Mahalo.
Mahalo. Sorry, I'm keep repeating myself. Just remember to state your name. Sorry.
Yeah,
I know who you are.
Yeah, I will. It's part of my message. First, I just wanted to apologize to everybody here. Normally, I would not sign up to go so early, and I would allow for Kanaka Maoli to speak first. But I do have my keiki with me, so I humbly ask for your leniency. This is why I'm going at the beginning. But typically, Kapuna and Kanaka Maoli should go first. And it's really hard to start with aloha, which is normally how I would begin, because I have no aloha for the Army. I have aloha for many of the individuals involved in the Army activities, but the Army as an entity, a'ole. I'm Shannon Matson. I was born in Honoka'a, raised in Kona, and Keakua willing, I will die someday, maybe in about 65 years, in Puna. Both of my keiki were born in Hilo. This is all important information because before I tell you my thoughts on continued desecration and war, I need to share my connection and kuleana to this Aina. I'm here on behalf of myself and my ohana, but I'm also here in the memory of some of my dear friends and family who have taught me about the military-industrial complex and have died before they saw the conclusion of this heva. Bob Northrop, my father, Nelson Ho, Greg Lupton, Uncle Abel. I am here not just to express my strong support for the no action alternative of no retention of state land after 2029, but I am proposing in addition to this that reparations be paid to all beneficiaries for the basically free ride that the Army got for the last 65 years, along with a comprehensive plan for environmental restoration. No part of the other alternatives are acceptable. Not to those who came before me or those who are coming after me. For the record, you, the Army, already own, I'm using this term loosely because you don't legally own it, 84,000 acres. And yet you allege that this 23,000 additional acres retention is crucial? For what? Forget it, you already have enough. Enough bombs, enough chemicals, enough land, enough death. Lava Kia. Lava Kia have a law. I haven't read the document cover to cover because I have children, I have a job, I have a life. It is 526 pages. No, wait. Plus an additional 1,974 pages. Plus 428 pages. Plus countless resources and other information. It's impossible to read in 48 days, or a year, or 2 years. But in the hundreds of pages I did read, I found a few surprising things. Right on the first page, Kalamayam, almost pow, highlighted, first page, executive summary. Military training is discussed only in the context of ongoing activities and their impacts because of land retention, and no changes in training are proposed. In another 65 years, we think no changes are going to occur. It says a separate NEPA analysis will occur in the future. So we're agreeing to something that we have no concept of what that even looks like. In 65 years, in the last 65 years, how many changes have we seen in military training procedures and protocols and weapons? This is just impossible. I mean, right there, it's flawed. Number two, not to mention how the community feels, which is the most important, but in all of those pages of of testimony and then all of the feedback from the federal, state, and county level, there are multiple entities in opposition or expressed severe concerns, including the EPA, OHA. OHA says this entire process is premature to implement the 2019 DLNR ordered management plan that hasn't even occurred yet. From 2019, we haven't done that yet. Step 1, we haven't even done. So how can we move on? Oh, there's so much more, but I'm sorry. I know I went over time. Lastly, I would really like to read, but I know I don't have time, so I'm just going to point out it's on page 700 for those of you interested. The transcribed message from retired Colonel Ann Wright. So please read her testimony. This is somebody who served in the military for 29 years. She's a retired U.S. Army colonel. I want this to be entered into the record again in its entirety. I think it should be the first page, and I think it should be the last page, and I think there should be a full survey done of current serving military personnel and retired, everybody in the VA that we can get a hold of, and you try to tell me that there are more people who have served in the Army who believe that this is necessary, because that's what this document says, that this is necessary. But if you ask retired military personnel, they will tell you this is not necessary, it never was necessary, and they are not better off for having served in the Army. Mahalo.
Thank you very much. Number 54. 54. Please state your name. Sorry, I'm very redundant, but please do.
Dr. Roxanne Kiriikipikane o Kolohaka. I provide this comment in strong opposition to the continued military occupation at Pōhakuloa. Despite the interwoven attempts to skew toward the preferred option in the EIS, the no action alternative is the only option that should be considered other than no lease renewal period. As it is a first in many steps the military should be taking to begin to rectify your footprint that has manifested detrimental change to landscape, habitat, and wildlife. Allowing continued military activity here further exacerbates the potentiality of severe irreparable harm. Given that we live on an island of interconnected ecosystems and dependencies, we must reorient our thinking and priorities to that of Aina. How close are we to the point of no return for this Aina and its people? You argue that loss of state-owned land would result in substantial impacts on training because the Army would no longer have access to these critical maneuver areas, etc. Perhaps the antiquated assumptive lens of military domination used in your infrastructure planning and design failed to properly consider the perspective of not being on this Aina eventually. And now the ramifications of that flawed methodology are coming into focus. When you knowingly build a structure on land that is not yours, your lack of access is a direct result of your erroneous decision-making. You frame land retention as a necessary precedent to the continuation of ongoing activities within a state-owned land retained by the Army. The EIS goes on to say that land retention arrangements would happen before the current lease expires so that training is not interrupted. And therein lies a key root of this conflict, the false premise that man supersedes Aina. The precedent you seek to set and perpetuate is the military's ingrained practice of permanent land destruction and indifference to detrimental impact. Aina is considered a commodity to you, one that can be disregarded or swapped when it no longer serves you. Your practice is simply to acquire another commodity and move on, leaving in your wake a dead land full of munitions, leaving the community and the state with the burden of cleaning up your mess. We can look to your historical record in places like Kaho'olawe, Makua, Kapukaki to recognize your disingenuous rhetoric of being good neighbors and stewards of Aina. But God forbid the health and well-being of land and its people interrupts your training schedule. The Army's actions and responsibilities under any of the alternatives gives no confidence to your willingness to work to clean and restore Pōhakuloa. In fact, under the no action alternative, you state, after the lease expires and if deemed necessary, the Army would follow regulations to determine how and when cleanup and restoration activities would occur. If deemed necessary is just another way of saying only if we feel like it. Why is any cleanup contingent upon lease expiration and limited to just hazardous classifications? As good land stewards, shouldn't cleanup be an ongoing practice? You state that the no action alternative will compromise the integrity of PTA, but in fact, PTA has irrefutably and severely compromised the integrity of our AINA. You further state that this alternative could result in the need to move. Polole, correct, you need to leave. The military should consider the no action alternative as preliminary training exercise for complete exit from Pōhakuloa. You will continue to face mounting opposition to your presence here and your continued desecration of our AINA. You can move your operations somewhere else. We cannot and will not disconnect ourselves from our elder AINA and our ancestral obligations of guarding and caring for her as the rightful stewards of Hawaiʻi. No military lease renewal, no land swaps. Stop the bombing and desecration. Aloha AINA oia i'o.
Mahalo nui. Mahalo. 55. I think you need no introduction, but please state your name anyway, Mr. Albertini.
Aloha, I'm Jim Albertini, president of Malu Aina. Been an organic farmer in Curtistown for 47 years and a school teacher and a coordinator for a university peace education project on Oahu for 10 years before that. First of all, I want to say, Colonel, you repeated the big lie in your introduction, that the military is good neighbors and that you're stewards of the land. It's the same thing Lieutenant Colonel Alvarado said on the day he was brought in the command in June of last year. We are stewards of the land. The land at Pōhakuloa is zoned state conservation land, the highest protected land status. The land may not have been zone conservation in '64 when the lease was first issued, but it is state conservation district now. So no lease renewal, no action alternative, no land swaps, stop the bombing and desecration, make the military clean up its toxic mess, return the land to the Kanaka Maoli, and pay reparations for destruction of the land and psychological injuries caused by your 75 years of bombing Pōhakuloa. Millions of live rounds are fired annually at Pōhakuloa by the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, and foreign troops. A conservation district is not for firing bombs, rockets, mortars, etc. How more basic can you get? Right? Depleted uranium is just one of many toxins that have been used up there at the 132,000 acre base for more than 75 years. DU oxide particles can be carried long distances in the wind, and when inhaled can cause a wide range of cancers, birth defects, and probably the worst thing, genetic damage that can be passed to future generations. For years, the military lied, saying no DU weapons were ever fired at Pōhakuloa. Then you were caught in the lie in 2007. And they have continued to try and downplay both the number of DU rounds fired and the potential health risks to troops and civilians. The Army has failed to comply with Hawaii County Resolution 639-08, passed by a vote of 8-1 that called for stopping all live fire at Pōhakuloa and all activities that create dust until there is a comprehensive, independent assessment and cleanup of the DU present at Pōhakuloa. You haven't taken that action and the 7 other actions that were called for in that county resolution. The county also named Dr. Lauren Pang, MD, as the official county liaison with the military. Dr. Pang spent 24 years in the Army Medical Corps and was named in the Who's Who top 3% of America's best doctors. The military has refused to consult with Dr. Pang. There's a lot of other points I'd like to make, but let me add this one. Pōhakuloa is a Lahaina firestorm in the making for Hawaii Island, and the danger is increasing with climate disaster. In the EIS Draft 2, it states there have been 892, let me repeat that, 892 recorded fires attributable to military activities at PTA since 1975, according to the military. But the military also says that many fire records prior to 2012 have been lost. That's page 354 for anyone who wants to look. 1 year to the day of the Lahaina fire, there was a fire at Pōhakuloa that wasn't named the Pōhakuloa fire. It was called the Leilani fire. And it burned over 17,000 acres, including more than 12,000 acres off the base, destroying native endangered species and cultural sites. Issues of land ownership. The military needs to be reminded time and time again, you are not good neighbors. You are not stewards of the land. You are illegal occupying powers who participated in the illegal overthrow of Hawaii in 1893 and have been illegally occupying. I wrote a book entitled The Dark Side of Paradise about the military in Hawaii. I recommend that you read that. I'll conclude with this. I recall a high-ranking German Nazi officer at the Nuremberg trials being asked, how many people tried to escape Auschwitz? And he said, well, nobody tried to escape Auschwitz. Why would they want to escape? Auschwitz is a family camp. Right? By you saying you're good neighbors and stewards of the land, you're repeating the big lie.
Thank you very much. Mahalo nui. Number 56.
Hello, I'm Patrick Easterling from Hilo, Hawaii. And I'm against extending the lease in any way, shape, or form. 62 years ago, I was living in Saigon, Vietnam. My father was Chief Navy. Then we had to move quick because he told the Joint Chiefs that we were losing the war and we had to change strategy. So the Joint Chiefs and the Pentagon, McNamara, got rid of him, cashiered him. More recently, 2003, Thomas White, Secretary of the Army, was fired. Shinseki was shut up and locked in a small room when they opposed the idiotic invasion of Iraq. I'm just saying this because while I know many officers like my father were honorable men, the military is not honorable. The military lies. They do whatever they want. And usually it's, well, in my lifetime, it's consistently been wars of imperialism, things that are looked back on as mistakes, like, bombing Laos with more bombs than were dropped on Germany in World War II. That was quite a mistake. They're still being blown up by this, children usually. But I question, because things like the bulldozing of some of the 10 rare species was only stopped because the Sierra Club filed suit. It wasn't a volunteer. When you guys have your Pōhakuloa Day and you invite all the children up, to me it's like, painting lipstick on a pig. It's going back to the depleted uranium. We found out, squeezed some of the truth out in 2008, that at least 2,000 rounds of depleted uranium were used for the nuclear training for the Davy rocket program, where there were spotting shells, at least 2,000. And who knows how many more. We know there's over 7 million bombs set off. And then we know that training for nuclear war has taken place and is likely still taking place at the PTA behind a wall of secrecy. And they're not going to tell us what's going on, but it has been confirmed that B-52 and B-2 stealth bombers fly monthly nonstop from Louisiana, Missouri, Guam to bomb Pōhakuloa and return home without ever touching down in Hawaii except for their bombs. B-52 stealth bombers are now deployed from Hickam. One B-52 bomber is named Spirit of Hawaii. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Number 57. And I would recommend, if you didn't pull a ticket, but you're inspired by other people testifying, please go get a ticket because the numbers are increasing. So, thank you. Please state your name, Uncle.
Aloha, my name is Danny Lee, L.I. is the last name. I live in Puna. I'm 77 years old, so I've been around the block. And I also got a degree from history from the University of Hawaii. So a lot of things that I'm going to say comes from that knowledge. So it's not just, somebody's mind. I'm not going to mince words. It might sound harsh, some of the things that I'm going to say. But it's not because I don't have any aloha for the men and women who choose to serve the country. But I have no aloha for the mission of the U.S. military. Because you know what the real mission is? If you really be honest and look at history, the mission, and in fact, even today, it remains, it's a self-appointed role as world policeman. That's what the military does. It isn't to defend people here or the interests. Not at all. In fact, there was no aloha from the beginning, from 1893, when the military overthrew a neutral and independent government. And of course, it's been occupied in Hawaii ever since. So it's the mission that you need to understand. And in fact, unfortunately, the US government learned from that ridiculous mission in 1893 and then applied it to elsewhere, everywhere since then. In fact, if you look at history, Hawaii was the first example how the US used this idea of regime change or proxy wars, okay? So to this day, we have proxy wars. In other words, U.S. tries to, if it can do it, it will try to get other people to fight, whoever the imaginary enemy is. In fact, if you read again in the news, both Republicans and Democrats, the people in Congress have said, look, the only reason we're fighting in Ukraine is because we want them to fight so that we don't have to fight the Russians. They said that. This is all in print. This is not something I made up. So please, really read redo your research in history, because in the United States, unfortunately, because of the corporate media, we live in a media cocoon. The rest of the world already see what the United States is doing, okay? So every time they look at the United Nations, the U.S. has to use veto power because it was isolated. It would refuse to talk about peace or ceasefire. Instead, it continues to ship bombs and everywhere in order to cause more and more genocide. And just to close, these are not just my harsh words. Not only come from me. I'll just quote two very famous Americans who said this in history. 1961, when President Eisenhower left office, you know what he said in his farewell address? He said, actually, the biggest threat to the democracy of this country is the military-industrial complex. That's what Eisenhower said. And that was 63 years ago, and it's gotten even much, much worse. Now it's $1 trillion every year going to war preparation. And in fact, we're inventing enemies. A couple of weeks ago, I think Washington Post had an article interviewing some of the people training, some of the Marines training up in Pōhakuloa, and they're asking, what are they doing? They're saying, basically, we're trying to train to fight a war with China. How ridiculous is that? Again, we live in a media cocoon. If you listen to the people, the Chinese leaders, the Russian leaders, they never said they wanted to attack the United States. They never said that they wanted to take over as number one. as the world policeman. Read what they say. They said, we want a more peaceful world so that it's a win-win mutual sharing. Read their words. Don't listen to the media. The media is all their mouthpiece for the Pentagon. So I would just say, the second famous American who said also, unfortunately, in 1964, Martin Luther King. And that was during the height of the Vietnam War. And you know what he said? These are his exact. The greatest purveyor of violence in the world today is the United States government. And that was 63 years ago. And maybe, in fact, the reason he said it, shortly after, he got assassinated. Okay, so my final words is this. If you're serious about really defending the security and safety of the people of Hawaii, just clean up, pay up, and move out. A'ole imua.
Mahalo nui. Number 58.
Aloha nui kākou pakahi a pau. O wau noho I, o ke au Garmin, mo o puna kua kahi o Edith Kanaka Ole, mo o puna o Pearl, ulu nui o ka mā malu, Kanaka Ole Garmin. I repeat my lineage to you guys. Sorry, let me repeat that in English for those of you who don't understand the Hawaiian language. Aloha, my name is Kiao Garmin. I'm 15 years old. I attend Ko'umekeka'eo Public Charter School, and I come here to oppose of what's going on Pōhakuloa right now. I repeat my lineage to you guys because my great-grandmother, Edith Kanakaole, did not fight not only for our language to be taught in school, but she taught everybody that the aloha for our aina should always come first. And that is passed on from generation into generation in my family. She's 3 generations above me. So now that I know that, so let me repeat my lineage on my father's side. I am grandson to Colonel Thomas Joseph Killian. I am son of airman of 20 years, Christopher Paul Killian. So now this makes a little bit of conflict, right? You can see right here, I'm shaking. So I come up here and when both of you, Mr. Colonels, was speaking, I heard, and I'm gonna just say this. I heard 2 things that was complete BS. Number 1 is that you guys are I forget what I was gonna say. You know, I stay out. You see me. I know more paper knocking. You know, I stay coming up here for giving my mana'o from my na'au and from my pu'uvai. So the first thing you guys said was that you guys care for the land. I'm gonna tell you guys right now, you guys don't. Because if you guys really cared for the land, you guys wouldn't do that. What you guys doing up there? You guys stay training, you guys stay firing guns, doing missiles, and I don't know what's going on up there. I don't know how long it's been going on up there. Probably since before I was even born. Guaranteed since before I was even born. But I know it's been far too long because the moment you guys started training up there, you guys been doing it for far too long. Now, the second thing is, you, Mr. Colonel McGonigal, said that there's no other place that you guys could be doing this. I've been to the mainland twice. Actually, no, I'm not even going to say it's the mainland because this is our mainland. This is our mainland right here. That is the continent. Ualava mako ika pohaku. Ika ai kamaha o kaaina. We don't need these ships. We can survive off the land. So anyway, my point is, I've flown to the continent twice. And what have I seen going over all of these ridges and mountains? Nothing but open land. Nothing but open land for hundreds of acres and miles. So why you guys got to do them over here? Why you guys got to train your military over here? And honestly, all of this would never be happening if back in 1893, you guys never invaded our homeland. Aloha, mahalo nui a o kona ka hola he ana mai. Eo.
Mahalo. You did a good job. Thank you. You did well. And actually, I'm just going to note, for those that are more comfortable in Olelo, Hawaii, please feel free to testify in that. So, and I have a feeling, I think he was immersion school student, so mahalo for coming and you did a very good job. Thank you for being here. Number 58.
Nine.
59, sorry. I was enthralled. Number 59.
Aloha and
Aloha.
good evening.
Your name, please.
My name is Joaquin Wesley Robinette. I'm a full-time college student here at Hilo, and I've been here ever since I've been here for the past coming up on 4 years. I've learned a lot about Hawaii in particular and how it relates to me as a young Black man, and how the military, you guys, since I come from a military family, you guys have always projected the image all over the world as the beacons of freedom, the beacons of democracy, and so on and so forth. But being here, I've learned that that's not the case, because, I mean, just because it's yellow doesn't mean it's gold. And and also, I personally believe, along with everyone else here, that you should return PTA back to the Hawaiian government, not just here, but also in other parts in Hawaii, including outside the continental US, like in Okinawa, Guam, even in Niger, and other places too. And like a few of the people that stated before me, that you claim to be stewards of the land. I've been through Pōhakuloa lots of times, and it looks barren. And coming from a military family, I respect you guys, but I don't have a lot of respect. But point is, dude, you should return the land, because not only you're causing an environmental destruction here, but you're also creating lots of animosity amongst the native Hawaiians, Kanaka Maoli, and even outside Hawaii too, like in Okinawa, Guam, and American Samoa. You claim to be the beacons of freedom, but you're just a representation, no offense, you're just a representation of pretentiousness and broken promises and broken treaties. Case in point, like during the early years of the United States, you've made several, if not hundreds, of treaties with the Native Americans, and almost all of them, I wouldn't say almost all of them have been broken, all in the name of security, but in reality, you just want more land, just so you be like Britain, France, and other empires in the world, predominantly European. Bottom line is, if you want to be the beacon of peace and freedom that you claim to be, then start living up to it by returning the land, and stop using my tax dollars and everyone's tax dollars to fund your charade for military supremacy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Number 60.
Aloha. Okay. Aloha kako. My name is Prana Mando. And first, I'd like to thank all of the kupuna, the makua, and the opio who have been here since long before I was born, protecting Aina. So I'd just like to humbly add a few comments to what's been said this evening, knowing that this is part of hundreds of years of testimonies. I support the no action option related to the end of the U.S. Army lease at Pōhakuloa. The lease on state land should expire because the lessee, the United States Army, has been a poor tenant and comes from a larger organization, the United States Armed Forces, which also has a consistent history of being a poor tenant. If we even look at it in the most simple colonial rules, you don't renew a lease with a lessee who trashes your house or your aina. It's very simple. I don't need to read, although I would like to have the time and do it, but I don't need to read 1,000 pages of the second draft EIS statement to know, because I simply observe it by driving over Saddle Road through Pōhakuloa and watching the helicopters drop bombs and watching the dust fly up, and knowing that this is a process called desertification. It's creating deserts where, if this were not happening, there would be plants that could root, there could be forests that could generate, and by bombing, you're destroying the future forests from becoming themselves. I understand that there is some conservation work that has begun, but that is not your primary purpose. Your primary purpose is war training. And honestly, we are a target because of the US military's presence in our islands. We are not protected by you. We are threatened by attacks from other foreign nations who might come here to take you out, just as happened in Pearl Harbor. All right, a second destructive action that is going on, done by the US Army at the Pōhakuloa training area, is pollution and damage to Ka'ohe, the aquifer that lies below the land used for war training. It's simple common sense that the military, like any industrial group, only more so, is contaminating the underground water supplies because there are chemicals used for industrial purposes, automotive purposes, for all of the military equipment that you use, for weaponry, and even for the simple barracks use, sewage. All of those things require chemicals, and leaks happen. Yeah, leaks do happen. That's not a secret that they happen. The earth absorbs those leaks, and then they don't disappear. The chemicals go down into what's below, which tends to be groundwater, known as ka'ohe, the bamboo water carrier is what is the place is named for, to my understanding. Furthermore, the Army coordinates with other branches of government. I heard this in your introduction today as you were speaking. And you coordinate with other branches of military who have further proven failures to meet land use obligations and land conservation obligations. And I forgot to say, the U.S. Army at Pōhakuloa has also been sued for non-compliance with environmental law. I believe it is Kahauleleo and Ching versus the United States. The U.S. Supreme Court upheld the facts of pollution, and those have not been rectified, they have not been corrected, and yet you're asking for a lease extension. Again, what sane landlord would re-grant you a lease when you are proven by the US Supreme Court to be in non-compliance with the laws you agreed to follow? That's insane. Others have spoken today, this evening, and will say it again, about the other branches of government which you work together with. A prime example is the US Navy, responsible for cracking the water table and desertifying Kaho'olawe more than the goats and the ranching, to a whole different level, where now not only is it a desert, is it full of ordnance, but there's also no water supply in the ground. Yeah, that was a result of bombing, the same action that I have personally witnessed as I just drove across the Saddle Road. Okay, so we know that that's happening, and it's a when. It's not an if. Will you damage the water supply? Yes, if it's not been done already. And of course, with Kapuka Key, with the leak of jet fuel into, the Honolulu City drinking water, that is a crime. Please don't commit such crimes here. I strongly urge that you, as people sitting in front of us today, that you take it in, that you not only write a few notes and hear it in your ears, but that you let our words touch your hearts, and that you would go back and support the ending of the lease and the proper cleanup and reparations of this aina, and be true representatives of defense. Mahalo.
Mahalo. 61, and I really do want to make sure everybody can go at least once. So if you could try to stick as much to the 3 minutes, I would really appreciate it. So 61.
Aloha nui. My name is Shauna Kukila. I live here in Hilo on the slopes of Mauna Kea. And I wanted to get to the, kind of like to the heart of a lot of our concerns is the mini nuclear weapons that are being used on Pōhakuloa. And there still hasn't been a proper assessment. In your folks' DU assessment, there is one word that is over and over said: uncertainty, uncertainty. So if you're uncertain if these mini nuclear weapons, the Davy Crockett M101 is a mini nuclear weapon. If you're firing those off up Mauka, the wind is coming down to Makai. There's only natural Mauka to Makai science. So I wrote an article of over 10 years ago in the Big Island News about all of this. And one of the things we're hoping is that the military would address this DU downwind issue, because the uncertainty is the same thing at Red Hill. Uncertainty about jet fuel is uncertainty now about DU effects and the nuclear weapons used on our mauna, our sacred mauna, above our water table. You know, I was taught by one of my kupuna that you can add to your recipe, but you cannot subtract. So once you poison our air, once you poison our water, Hevaloa. So we ask you today, one of the things that we hope that you will do is get your risk assessment updated, like Uncle said, with Thornton Payne. All these things that you're overlooking is dire to us. This is really important stuff for our health and safety. It's one thing for the military to be a defense for the nation, but why are you going to destroy your home in the process? You know, this is our home. This will be our home for generations. It's been our home for generations. The military is a visitor. They need to clean up their chemicals that they bring to our pristine land. We don't have nuclear weapons in Hawaii bombing on our mauna just out there in the open. That's not what Hawaii is about. So what we're doing here today is standing up for our aina and our future, and as well as today. So kalamai if we're all sounding very angry, but you would be upset too if your home was in danger like this. Kalamai. Mahalo.
Mahalo nui. Thank you. Number 62, please.
Thank you. Aloha, my name is Deborah Ward. I worked at the University of Hawaii for 25 years, and I have been farming for 23 years, and I live in Mountain View. I would like to speak for a dear friend of mine who passed away at the age of 42 after single-handedly fighting the Army to close off the multipurpose range complex at Pōhakuloa because she had done research up there on the plants and flora that were native and critical to the area that she was studying. She died of cancer at the age of 42 after winning her battle with the Army to shut down the MPRC. We are not happy, and we're not willing to put up with this many more years of occupation. We object to the bombs, the trash, and the pollution, and the arrogance that comes with it. Don Thomas, a UH geologist, found high-level water under PTA, and we've been waiting for years to learn if the contaminants were found in the water. The information has not been released despite many requests over several years. 6 species of native birds have disappeared from PTA during the Army occupation. Thousands of acres have burned, and fires occur many times every year. Helicopters fly during the fledging of the birds, and the birds are not habituated to the noise and the disruption, as you say. Instead, they've died or disappeared from critical habitat. This is sacred land, and it contains standing stones that relate to the standing stones on Mauna Kea that were used by Kanaka of old and now that relate to astronomy. We do not appreciate the idea that you would exchange the land or that you would change the conservation district. We don't really want you here as an occupier. We do not believe that you will ever clean up this land, and you are not being truthful or transparent. This EIS is deficient and defective, and the entire premise is unacceptable. Why have you removed 700 pages of the cultural impact statement from the EIS? I find it impossible to respond to 3,000 pages of an EIS in 3 minutes. You must be joking. Thank you for your time. I cannot begin to explain how not happy we are with the ideas that you proposed. You must explore other alternatives that do not involve using the land of Hawaii. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Number 63. Yeah.
Okay. Aloha kako.
Aloha.
Mahalo for this opportunity to speak. I get academic, and I started looking at things I should write, doing outlines, doing paper, doing numbers, going through pages.
And
then
name, please. Sorry, your name? Did you say your name?
Oh, my name is Risha Shima. I currently live in Volcano for the last 30 years. Prior to that, I lived outside of Kapa'au, North Hawaii, and came here from the continent.
Mahalo nui.
Mahalo. There was so many things that I couldn't even start to figure out what to say, what to keep. So I just threw out the paper, and I'm going to come here with my feelings and my heart. I'm going to talk about my experience, my personal experiences. I graduated high school in 1967. A large percentage of my graduating class, young men, were drafted into the Army straight over to Vietnam, several of them within 2 weeks of graduation. That was not a good thing that happened. A lot of those people, a lot of my friends, my generation became a lost generation of military survivors. The Army did not take care of my generation of soldiers. I also want to say that I have deep respect for the people who fight for my country. I have no problem. My problem is with the military-industrial complex, which I first heard as a little kid. Anyway, homeless, drug addiction, mental health issues, Agent Orange later on, which the Army refused to verify or treat for the longest time. After that, there was other things that came up. But then the Iraq War, burn pits. Right now, my friends' adult children who fought in Iraq in that really stupid illegal war are suffering extreme damage from burn pits. And only just now are they receiving any kind of treatment or validity for their their problems. And it goes on and on. Most recent is the Red Hill. If anybody thinks that the military gives a rip about the people, just look what happened with the Red Hill disaster. How can we trust anything that comes out of the military complex? My whole life I've been seeing stuff that it's broken promises, cover-ups, lack of care for people who are in the military. The other thing that happens, people get programmed to go into the military, which is what needs to happen to be a good warrior. But they don't get deprogrammed when they come out to bring them back into societal norms and being able to get along better. It's a huge problem. And I guess my bottom line, because I could go on and I might be getting a little carried away here. Oh, also, another thing in my experience. When I was 6 years old, I lived in far west Texas. My big mama drove back and forth between California, where my Army, Air Force uncle, I bought her a little bungalow, and she crossed over during those nuclear tests uprange Nevada, and she died of what they finally determined was small cell carcinoma. I do believe that she died because of military testing. Okay, and I guess that's all I have for right now. I could go with a million reasons why this is a terrible idea, but my big thing is we cannot trust a thing that is happening with you folks. Mahalo.
Thank you very much. Number 64. '64. Okay.
Good evening. My name is Ronald Kodani. I'm an officer for the Pōhakuloa Hawaiian Homestead Community Association, about 5 minutes away. My concern is my son was the UXO technician for about a year and a half. And what bothered me is the military or our government knew that much of these lands in Hawaii is basically poison because all of this unexploded ordnance. And what really scared me is he told me that some of the things that they found in, I think was by a Parker Ranch, was Willie Peter, white phosphorus. And in basic training, I saw what it does. And that really scared me for my son. And so I encouraged him, get out. You know, the pay was great, but you'll be a mess if you ever hit this. I also found out that in the homestead community of Maku, that they have people living there, and only later on they found out there's still unexploded ordnance. And, you know, it's quite prevalent among all the homestead communities throughout the state because I belong in another organization called SHAW, Sovereign Council of Hawaiian Homelands, which about 48 homesteads throughout the state. And all of them got stories about places they know where munitions was exploded, but was never cleaned up. But I go back to Kaho'olawe. That island was populated with people before. I believe about 3,200. And one of our members here sitting in the audience was one of the protesters. And I think to myself, that's since World War II. And we still haven't cleaned it up. So whatever promises you made, my concern is, will they clean up Pōhakuloa after? So, because I'm speaking for the Hawaiian community, because my beautiful wife there is a native Hawaiian. And as you know, there's so many homestead, waitlisters on this island alone. We have, if you're not aware, Hawaiian Homes has 48,000 acres at Huma'ula. Right below is Pi'i Honua, which is 8,000 acres. And we have plans for there, but we're sort of concerned that who would want to live there if she could be listening to munitions going off, you know. And believe me, you know, I'm sorry, but I'm a proud vet. You know, Vietnam, I volunteered. I wasn't drafted. I volunteered, knowing I could have gone to Vietnam. I was happy I got sent to Korea instead. Anyway, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Number 65.
Wait, no, down, no. Yeah, right there. Thank you. Aloha mai kako. My name is Noelani Kalipi, and I was born and raised in Hilo. I also have a volunteer position called the Civilian Aide to the Secretary of the Army. The comments I am making today are my own and do not represent the Department of the Army. I'm testifying in support of the preferred option presented in the EIS. And while I hope at some point in the future, the Army won't need to use as much land for training, I don't think that time is now, given everything that is happening in the world. I do, however, think that the time is now to reshape our role and relationship as residents of Hawaii with the United States Army, and to identify pathways forward for the co-management of Pōhakuloa in preparation for a time in the future where the Army may not need as much lands to train. Both of my grandfathers, Native Hawaiians from Hilo, are World War II veterans. And while I understood their service, I grew up questioning why our federal dollars were going to the Department of Defense rather than to education and to social services. I come from a family, however, that believes in learning about what we don't understand and what we don't know. So after law school, when I was dared to go on to active duty in the United States Army, I took the dare and I served for 3 years. I gained a lot more respect and understanding for what it takes to protect and ensure the freedoms we all enjoy today. I also had the privilege of working for United States Senator Daniel Keakaka, a World War II veteran and the first Native Hawaiian senator who authored Public Law 103-150, the Apology Resolution. In the resolution, the United States not only apologizes for its role in the overthrow of the Kingdom of Hawaii, but it also commits to a process of reconciliation with Native Hawaiians. And I raise this because we have a tremendous opportunity to reshape our relationship with the United States Army going forward. And while this EIS process is not set up for a dialogue, we can't get to the end result without a meaningful dialogue. And it's important for all of us to fully participate in this process and also look for ways to collaborate. Our geographic location, 2,500 miles from the nearest landmass, is what makes us a strategic location in the Pacific, with or without the military's presence. The Army in recent years has recognized the need to be better stewards. They also make a significant contribution to our island economy and provide valuable training and jobs for Hawaii residents. No question that we can do more, that more can be done. Our purpose is to be able to do it together. Just have one more part to finish. Some feel strongly that the military should leave Hawaii, or at a minimum should minimize its live training activities. Could the Army at some point train in a way that minimizes impact to Aina? I would hope so, given the advances in technology. Yet there is no doubt that live fire training is vital to combat preparation. And when I look into the eyes of the men and women, many of whom I'm related to and know, who are defending our country, and I see their determination and drive, I want to ensure that the best training is available for them to return alive. I do believe we can create the pathways to do this together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Number 66. Please state your name. And I just want to say, we're going to make sure everybody can talk, and then I'll ask, but I don't think we're going to have time for people to go twice. So there is the phone lines, but please. Thank you.
Okay, aloha.
Aloha.
Aloha, my name is Leomano Toralde. I'm a Marine Corps combat veteran, Native Hawaiian. I'm a NASA rocket scientist, and I did astrophysics as a scientist at Gemini Telescope. First of all, I just wanted to say I oppose the renewal of all of these leases. Sir, Lieutenant, please, can you look at me? I'm offended that they send you to broker this deal because you're in the infantry just like me. You don't have any experience with natural resource management. You're not a conservationist. And you're here to hear us about the land deal. And you're in the infantry. That's what you focus on. You don't know anything about the mountain. I know you love Hawaii. Your first duty station, Oahu, right? On Oahu. I know that. I know you love my islands. Love me. Love me. Since the military got to all of these islands, my people are not here. The Hawaiians are moving. You focus too much on the mission, man. You're not focusing on us in this room, us. We don't need all the bombs up there. I dropped the bombs just like you did, yeah? I see you. We dropped the bombs. I don't know this guy. I was at Fort Bragg. I was at Benning. I was with the Army Infantry and the Rangers. I was at the same places you are at. And now I'm here, fighting for the land, fighting for the people, fighting for my people. Oahu, everybody got poisoned. Big Island, same thing. I dropped bombs on this base too. Did you? I did. I'm not proud of that. And I tell all my people, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for doing that. I'm sorry for all the lies. I'm sorry for all the damage. I fucking hurt. I don't want to wear that stuff on my chest. You see that stuff you got on your chest? I took mines out. Because when I got up there, I saw what was going on. It's beautiful, isn't it, Mauna Kea and Mauna Loa? And you sit right in the middle. And we launch all the mortars, and we watch the helicopters, and we fucking launch the flares at night. Beautiful. That's why we have it. It's like it's a military tourism. That's why you came back. That's why you came back to Hawaii. That's why you are still here. Care about me. Care about the things I'm saying. Care about my people. Look at everybody in the room. Do they look like me? They don't look like me. That's because we're all gone. More Hawaiians live outside of Hawaii. And you know who's here? You. You're here and him. And we're all in this room begging, please don't destroy the land. Please listen to us. Please help me. Please help. Call the last base commander from Kaneohe in 2019. He didn't keep his promises and he lied. Do better. We don't need this base, and you know that. All the millions of dollars that we spend getting all of our skills. It's not hard for me to come. It's real hard for me to come up here and tell you this kind of stuff. I'm afraid to speak up against the empire. That's what it is. I'm afraid to come inside here and look at you and tell you the truth because you know what I talk about. You know what I'm talking about. These people don't know. He don't know. I joined 2005, like you. I wanted to be a special forces pilot so I could be a space shuttle commander. I ended up becoming an operator, like you, right? Infantry first, right? And then you become the operator. And then we go do all that bullshit. Look up my name, please. You know where I'm coming from. Please protect me. That guy cannot do nothing. Thank you guys for your time. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Number 67.
Thank you. No, you're good, Uncle. Aloha.
Aloha.
My name is Kamamalu and I belong to the Kanakaʻole family. I will also repeat my lineage to you. My great-grandmother is Edith Kanakaʻole and my great-grandfather is Luka Kanakaʻole. I am granddaughter to Colonel Thomas Joseph Killian, and I am daughter to Christopher Paul Killian, who served in the Air Force for 20 years. My mother is Native Hawaiian and my father is Haole. I'm 15 years old and I am a freshman at Ka'umekika'eo. My father worked at Pōhakuloa for a while before realizing that he did not want his keiki to be choosing between our culture and his paycheck. We Kanaka have asked nicely for you to leave and go somewhere else, but I'm pretty sure I can speak for most Kanaka when I say that we are pau asking nicely. I understand the need for your training. Trust, I do. I'm a granddaughter and a daughter to multiple people who served in the military, multiple branches. But you do not need to do that here. You really don't. I am not sorry to say that I do not care about what moderations you prefer to do on land that doesn't belong to you in the first place, that you continue to trash like we can just get a new Pōhakuloa. You claim time and time again that it is to help and to support our people, but you have proved that that is not that. But beautiful Hawaii, yeah? Beautiful Hawaii. So beautiful. I love working here. Let's bomb it, huh? Yeah, let's bomb it. Ole. So shame. You are working near our elder Mona, which is also our water source. Was what Hui Alaloa doing on Ko'olave not enough for you to know that we Kanaka do not support you wrecking our aina? We have not grieved Ko'olave, and I refuse to have to grieve another part of our aina, Pōhakuloa. I fear by the time I have my kids, they will have to do projects on how we used to have Pōhakuloa, like how we now do projects on how we used to have Kaho'olawe as a whole. And I refuse to have that happen. If we do not fight now, who will? My whole life, which has not been very long, so take of that what you will, Mr. Military Man. I have been fighting for what's right for my people and my country. I hope by standing here tonight will teach Keiki my age, younger or older, that they have a voice and their leo matters, because I and many refuse to sit here in silence. I do not care if you do not have the power to change this. When you leave here, pick up your rubbish. Seriously, this is what we have been taught since Keiki days. When you make a mess, especially one that you should not be making, clean it up. You go and tell your Mr. Boss Man to get off our aina, and unless you can show me a treaty, stop calling us a state and leave us alone. I will stand with my culture and my aina to the day I die. Mahalo for your time. Thank you.
Mahalo nui. 68, please. Very good. Thank you. 68.
Thank you. My name is Stephen Pommier. I live in Hilo, and I've been here 15 years. It's a short time. There's something called shame. And sometimes we blush. And I just want to say to the officers here who are representing the Army that that would be the appropriate response to what you're hearing. It's a human thing to blush. It's a human thing to have shame when your dignity is lost. Honor is something you must have to defend anything. The honor here is lost. The training that is supposed to happen in the training area well, there's evidence for whether the training is working or not. Our country's military has been involved in many, many military operations, and we're all blushing. From Korea to Vietnam to Afghanistan to
to Iraq, to Libya. There are too many to mention. It is a very, very authentic embarrassment. Something there isn't enough blushing and shame to be done with. Do you remember when you were young and you did something you knew was wrong? That's the feeling you should be feeling now. When your mother came to you with tears in her eyes about something you had done. That's the shame that we're all feeling for this mistake. When you don't have honor, when you've been caught in a lie over and over and over again, it's time to stop. The EIS is inappropriate. There shouldn't even be an application. I'm against this. Aloha.
Thank you very much. Number 69. If I can get a raise of hands, how many don't have a ticket and would like to provide testimony? Anyone? Okay. Okay, one in the back. Okay. If you can please get a ticket, that just helps, but I'm not going to turn you away or anything.
Aloha kako. My name is Jennifer Ho. I live in Hilo. I have lived on the Big Island for close to 45 years, most of my life. I am against extending the lease at Pōhakuloa, and I know that you joined whatever branch of the service to serve the country. And what I would invite us all here to think about, because of course it's heroic to serve the country. And we imagine that you're joining and seeing yourself in that role to do good, and yet you've gotten manipulated. All of us have been manipulated by what being that hero really means. So heroism gets tied and linked with being a warrior. And I invite us all to redefine what being a hero is, not specifically about war, because war hurts anything and everything. And here you are, you've learned to work together in amazing team camaraderie, where you can rely on each other. And these are things that if you come out whole after your years of service, you look back on with pride how it's made you make your bed really tight. You can bounce a coin off of it, or you have friends you can call up and, you've all polished your boots together and you've gone through this together. So that, I understand, that's strengthening. But when you look under the covers, what's really going on, the militarism that has taken over the world, created a situation where you are supposed to be the watchdogs of countries that aren't even really a threat to us. None of these countries are a threat to us. The tip of the spear pointing itself at China or whatever little weak country, or however we supply military aid to somebody because that's funded by tax dollars, which really is just a way for the military industrial establishment to make more money. And it's moving the positions around the pawns on the playing board. Every act of rehearsing for war is actual war on the environment. If you're not allowed to do war because you're near where people live, then where do you go? You go to where nobody lives, but who lives there? The animals that don't have a chance to live anywhere else. So then you're making maybe not a real war, but you're driving your equipment where the animals that try to nest there, they can't nest there, they can't survive. So what I invite you to do, because I know you want to see yourself as honorable citizens, is to shift this dialogue away from calling a warrior a hero Because in war, the weak lose. But the only situation where a war was really won was Gandhi's war. And they were the weakest and they did not fight. So you cannot win by fighting. Look what happened in America's South. They never gave up. They still are angry at how they were in a war. South is angry at the North. That war did not succeed. War does not succeed. If you want to create that incredible camaraderie that you guys have together, go to war against invasive species, scale that cliff, and rescue the important thing. Take out the mollusks that are on the bottom of some ship that are causing havoc to fisheries. If you're going to go to war, don't go to war. Go to being a protector. Shift the dialogue. Being a warrior is not heroic. And I invite you to not go from Pōhakuloa to some other place. They don't want it either. Join with us. Get the American industrial complex, military industrial complex, to break up and go away. Because what you guys do in your camaraderie is admirable. But what war does is not admirable. And you know that because you're human beings. You're like I am. You can feel it. You have a heart. I know you do. Thank you for being open to what we have to say. Please, take it further. Make it just. Aloha.
Thank you very much. Number 70. Thank you for anticipating that.
Thank you. Aloha kako. I am Kealani La'amakihiki. I am Kanaka Maoli. I am also kupuna. I'm also a grandmother of 17 mopunas and 1 great. I'm not going to stand up here and attack you gentlemen in the green suits because you're just the body of the snake. You know what I mean? But I will tell you, you can take this message to the head. Kanaka Mauli's coming. We're going to put a stop to all of this. Pau already. Pau. Mahalo.
Mahalo nui. 71, please.
I'm coming.
Auntie, you gonna sit down?
No.
You sure? You okay?
Mahalo.
Okay.
Mahalo. Aloha mai kako. Mahalo. Gentlemen, you're in Hawaii. When we say aloha, aloha back. Okay. I grew up as a great American. My father, they called him Top. He did an infraction in Honolulu as a 17-year-old. The judge said, go to jail or join the army. Guess what he took? The army. I was a proud American. Red, white, and blue, apple pie. I pledge allegiance to the flag. Your flag. My country, 'tis of thee. Guys, you know this. The route, the routine we were taught, the propaganda. I was 40 years old before I found out I'm not an American. That we're occupied by the American system. Talk about mind trips. You know, I'm like, wait, what? I'm not an American? So I'm still in the process of learning who the hell I am. I know who I am. I know where I live. I used to respect the military. Before I go on, can we take a second out to aloha and malama, our neighbors, friends in Maui at this moment who are doing the same thing because the Air Force is proposing 7 telescopes on top of Maui. Space Force. So let's pule, send up our aloha to our neighbors and ohana. Enough. And another thing that offends me is that damn commercial. You take this to the head, like she said, my sister said, take it to the head that that commercial, Kanakas in their native garb, running, and they transform into these military, how offensive. It's very offensive. Tell your boss. I don't know if I introduced myself. I'm sorry, guys. Jerry Kehaulani La'a. I was born. All caps. That's my straw man. I'm repatriated. My name is Jerry Kehaulani La'a Maikahiki. I'm grabbing my Ohana name. I never knew that was my name. I'm 65 bloody years old, guys, and I'm finding out. So imagine my children. My kids are from 20 to 45. 6 spread along. So the older ones grew up American. The babies, Mama, they're telling me to do the Pledge of Allegiance. Oh, no, no. I'll go down to the school. Do not make my child pledge allegiance to this country and flag when there's no meaning. It's not going to be practiced here in our house. I respect your country, so you need to go to your country and do your thing, your practices. I guess the bottom line is no. No come make dirty. No pilau our house. Not for ready. Mahalo, gentlemen. I know this is not a good spot for you right now. You should have had your generals here to take the shit. Sorry.
Mahalo. Mahalo nui. Number 72. Just please state your name at the beginning. Mahalo.
Mahalo. Aloha kako. My name is Kaku Hailoa Poipoi. I come from Ualapui, Molokai. And I just wanted to talk about a little bit of my experience growing up, because the two aunties that came before me, La'a Maikahiki is the Ohanani. And I wanted for mahalo for their olelo before for giving their experience, especially auntie before me, because she was talking about how she was raised as an American. I was kind of different, yeah. My grandparents and my parents was raised American, but my tutu, she was one of the first who started the Hawaiian immersion on Molokai. So I was raised kind of with that mindset. I'm not American. My papa was a part of the military. He was in the Vietnam War and explained to me, even though he was a part, he's a veteran and he still go to all the veteran events and all of that. This country that is occupying us right now does not stand for, liberty and justice and all of these things that they claim for. Because you just look at, for me, my thing was I was raised fishing in Mo'omomi. I come from Hui Malama o Mo'omomi. I know it's asking for the organization, so I wanted to state that real quick. But I was raised fishing in Mo'omomi. And one of the main things that I was told, when we go Tronet in a place called Hinana Ulua, there is an island. Now, we don't know the name of the island nowadays, but what we call it is Target Island. Because back in the days, the military used to bomb it. And what I was taught from my papa is that when they used to go diving grounds over there back in the days, had chokefish. And by the time, when I was a kid, I cannot go over there because of the dangers. There's unexploded ordinances in the area and all of this kind of stuff. So I was never, I always had some kind of resent for the military, and I always heard about Pōhakuloa, but I was always kind of scared to come and speak up. But now I have no shame to say it's Heva, because and I was reading the posters, and I only think that we can go for the fourth way of doing this, which is no access. The military has no access to PTA, to Pōhakuloa training area. And I woke up to this ever since I went to Kaho'olawe this past spring break. Yeah. Because what I learned in Kaho'olawe is the military, when bombed the shit out of that island and left the Hawaiians for clean them up, because we're the ones doing all the work over there. That's so funny to me that PKO and Kirk, all of that kind of stuff. There's all kind of, it's kind of detailed, but what I see is Hawaiians going to, or people who is in support of our Lahui and our movement going to Kaho'olawe to clean that shit up. And what I'm hearing currently about Pōhakuloa is that none of it is going to be cleaned up, and that basically there's no benefit in bombing our islands. You even seen your own charts. I mean, I'm not talking to you directly, but as the U.S. Army, as delegates of them, I just want to say, look at the charts and what no access provides for us, even according to your research. I mean, personally, I think that the benefits of no access would be even further. But yeah, I just wanted to give my mana'o because now I'm not shamed for giving my mana'o. And I just wanted to say, yeah, I don't agree. And no access is the only way. And I hope that all my Hawaiians in here agree. And not only just the Hawaiians, but everybody else here in Hilo. So mahalo for letting me share my mana'o.
Number 73. Does somebody have 74? I'm just checking. Okay, so, okay, and then after anybody who hasn't had a chance. Where's the 74? Okay, well, we'll keep calling numbers. We'll figure it out. Your name, please.
Aloha mai kako. O Leilani Badamo Koinoa. O Kupuahine mai Hana Maui. O Makua Kane mai Wailuku Maui. My mother was born and raised in Makaha. My father was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. My father was in the military, in the Marines. That's how he met my mother. 3 generations back, my family, I am literally a product of the military, the colonizer, and the quote unquote colonized. So, and that goes 3 generations back in my family. I was here in Hawaiʻi until I was about 3, and then my family moved to New York. My father, being in the Marines, right, he raised us really rigidly. When we were scolded, we were put, the 3 of us, in a line by height order. So we got the belt, leather belt, metal buckle. We got the shit beat out of us when we were misbehaving. However, the worst part is when he would give us a 4-hour lecture and dehumanize us. So I understand as an adult later on from being physically abused and a bar of soap put in my mouth when we were cursing at each other, that he was brainwashed from the military, and that was how he was taught maybe as a child. And I don't know, in the military, like that was discipline. Anyway, one thing that he did with all of us before we were able to reach the sink was to learn how to wash dishes. That was one of the things that we went through. But my parents taught me that when you make a mess, you clean it up. When you make a mess, you clean it up. That's your kuleana, or responsibility if you don't know that term. My daughter's here with me today, and I asked her if she wanted to speak, and she didn't want to speak. She didn't actually even want to come because, like, Mom, what is this about? I don't want to go. And so I was telling her what it is about because it's important for her to know. So I'm Hapa, I'm mixed, right? Hawaiian, Chinese, Portuguese, Italian, Dominican. From all parts of my family, I learned about taking care and having responsibility for the things that you do, the actions that you take. And I'm asking you as humans in front of me, I'm sure you have families, I'm sure you eat food, and I'm sure that you drink water. So when you do these things on a daily basis, put yourself in the shoes of the Kanaka Maoli and think about what you're doing to our aina, what you're doing to our water. Because our water is not just our water, it's your water. It's water you drink. The people in Red Hill that drinking that poisoned water, that the military poisoned, that's water that everyone drinks, right? So I know you probably have a nice, I'm a trained welder, actually. I worked 7 years as a welder for the Boilermakers Union. I could have taken a job on Oahu making a ton of money with the military, but I chose not to. I'm studying agriculture, and I will leave my statement with this. If you study anything in nature, you can Google it very quickly. Tsunamis, mudslides, everything in nature will destroy anything man-made. And I'm telling you now, the Lohui is strong like nature. Thank you.
You very much. Number 74. 74. Okay, 75. We're going to keep moving. Please state your name.
Aloha mai kako. I am Tu'upua Helekahi. I am originally born and raised from Hana, Maui, but I have moved here to Hilo to attend UH Hilo, where I'm now currently, after this semester, a senior. I wasn't planning to come tonight. I definitely wasn't planning to speak, but then after, especially reading the posters about the your guys' environmental impact statement, I've studied NEPA and HEPA from an anthropologist who's worked with the state and federally with them, and he has showed a lot of things within our class of how there are many loopholes to go around HEPA and NEPA, and that no matter what, if you have money and if you have pool, it goes your way. It doesn't matter what the law says, there are always ways around it. Sorry, I took notes because I wasn't planning to speak. So one question I had was, how do we know that you guys aren't breaking these laws? How do we know that you guys are actually following the HEPA and NEPA laws set in place, regulations set in place, and all of the processes that it goes through? Because just to form the H3 and H1 on Oahu, they were already breaking HEPA and NEPA laws, and that was already shouldn't have been made. That was just state and federal decision. Another thing, reading the posters, you guys were talking about how Hawaii is so important to the military. But when you read the posters, it's only for training. You guys only look at us as a place to practice war, but there's no war. When was the last time we sent troops to a country to actually fight and bomb places? It hasn't happened for a long time. Why do we still see the necessity in doing these things? I have a brother-in-law who's in the military on Oahu, and he actually wants to leave because he finds it so like there's no sense in going to training areas. He comes here to Pōhakuloa and does training here, but he's like, why are we doing it? Where's the benefit of us coming over here and training? But he's been in the military for years and he hasn't gone to a war. He's gone to deployment and to look at hang out in other countries pretty much, and just walk around with their guns in neighborhoods. It's sad to put people in places like that. It's really sad. And to use our land only as a place to train is heartbreaking, because you guys don't look at the beauty of it. And you guys don't look at why this shouldn't be happening in Hawaii. And the last thing I want to point out, because I know I'm going over time, I took a photo of the poster that was talking about the potential environmental impacts. And when you look at, you guys, you have the significant adverse impact and then the less than significant impact and the other two. When you look at every single alternative there, it looks this exact same. There's not one change in any alternative that is different. So why would we want to renew the lease when there's no changes actually being made? And you showed us in this graph that you drew for us. That's why the only alternative that should be looked at is alternative 4, where the lease isn't renewed. And I'm going to end it there. Thank you. Mahalo.
Okay, we're going to keep taking testimony, but we are at time. So we want to respect people's time. If you have to go, by all means, we're staying here, but 76, but it is 8 o'clock. So if you have to, by all means, don't, but thank you.
Aloha, my name is Leela Edwards. I'll make it quick. I'm here today I want to contribute to this testimony on the behalf of children in Hawaii. I'm not speaking on behalf of my company, but I'm someone who's been to every school in Hawaii, every room, looking at safety of buildings and also environmental air quality and things going on in Hawaii. And I went to the schools, I've talked to over 200 custodians in Hawaii, and I went to the school that was inundated with jet fuel. I know the environmental scientist that worked in the cleanup. And what I want to say is, as jet fuel was streaming through elementary school on Oahu, it blew all the gaskets, exploded the toilets. The extent of poison is very real in the impact of military occupation and testing here in Hawaii, and it affects children, it affects schools. Army Corps of Engineers has been a big part of how schools were created here. There's a long history of neglect. And just so you know, directly from custodians' mouths to me, gaskets are still rotting away. They can say that there's no jet fuel. And it impacts children. So I just want this to be on record that you really need to clean up. I just want to get this on record, like I'm against the extension of the lease. And there needs to be a focus on cleanup. The playground at Saddle Road is radioactive. These are places that house children all throughout Hawaii. And I want this on testimony that you have not done a good job, and I know. So thank you.
Thank you very much. 77.
Aloha. My name is Lanny Sinkin. I rise in opposition to the idea of the Army continuing to occupy Hawaii. It's like the elephant in the room that got mentioned a couple of times. The apology resolution was mentioned. I highly recommend that you encourage your folks in the Army and other services to read the apology resolution. It's a very detailed and accurate description of the overthrow of a legitimate government that had a peaceful relationship with the United States and that was overthrown by traitors within the government and by United States personnel who cooperated with them. You have to know that story to understand the story of Hawaii. So here we are talking about land that was still stolen, land that was stolen from the people of Hawaii, passed on to the so-called state of Hawaii, passed on from them now to Pōhakuloa. And there's basically underneath that, there's a claim to land that's going on here. A transformation from what was ceded lands, as they call it, but sacred lands for Hawaii, a transformation from that into a commodity, a land that you can just take this piece from here and give it to that piece over there, and we'll swap. You know, you take A, I'll take B, as if there are no prior owners who indeed have a right to the land. And it's important to understand the difference between right holders and stakeholders. You know, the right holders are the people who were here originally. The stakeholders are people who came later and have claimed to be part of the community now. These are issues that are huge to deal with. The apology resolution called for reconciliation. There's been no effort at reconciliation ever between the Hawaiian people and those who stole their country. So I rise in opposition to this effort to transform that relationship. Mahalo.
Number 78.
Aloha, aloha nui kako. My name is Kelina Ka'aihue. I come from Waiʻehu, Maui. And I'd just like to share my mana'o today and paint you a picture, actually. When I was 4 years old, I went to the State House on Maui, and I was testifying against rebuilding and building the telescopes on Haleakala. When I was 10 years old, I went back to the State House, and I testified for water rights. When I was 11, I did it again. When I was 12, I went back to the State House testifying for building telescopes on Mauna Kea. When I was 13, one more time. 14, one more time. When I was 17 years old, I wrote a letter to Congress telling them my mana'o, how ikaika I was standing forth for my lahui, for my aina, for my water, for my mauna. When I was 18 years old, 19 years old, I just took a trip to Kaho'olawe. And let me tell you, if my mo'opuna have to go there and see the eha of the aina, the eha of the kanaka, the eha of the lahui, I hope that never ever has to happen. Because here now, 20 years old, I am here again, testifying again, talking again. How much times I gotta talk for someone to hear me? You know what I mean? And I hope to God, I pray to Keakua that my mo'opuna will never ever have to go through this. How much times my kupuna went up there, chained himself to a pohaku, for what? Just for you to blow it up. Not to you directly, sorry, but to your bosses, to your people, to the military. I have no disrespect towards the military. My papa was a veteran. He fought in the Vietnam War. Very, very proud of where he came from. Very, very proud of the battles that he fought. My tutu goes to the base, buys her turkey, 50% off every Thanksgiving. No shame. But what the military is lacking, I think, is the concept of aloha aina, the concept of malama kanaka, malama la hui. You know, I don't want my mo'opuna to be in this world not knowing what it means to be kanaka, to be on this aina and not know the love for the land. And I really do think that if the military, the people in power really sit and listen to what we have to say, listen to the mana'o that is brought up, you know, that it will really, really make a change. I mean, all these people are here today, kupuna, sorry, not saying that you guys are old, but just kupuna, you know what I mean? And I bet your kupuna was fighting too, and you was here as a little boy, like, oh man, and I just think, and I'm so happy that everyone is here sharing their manao, and mahalo for your time today. Malama Pōhakuloa, malama aina, aloha lahui, mahalo nui.
Mahalo. Uncle Pat, I think she would call you old. That's okay. You're still good looking. No, that was funny. That was hilarious. Okay, 79. You're still the best looking one here, Uncle Pat. No worry.
Mahalo. Mahalo. Aloha. Aloha mai kako. Mahalo to everybody who spoke before me. I really appreciate you guys and seeing like the opio here and giving their mana'o and their testimony really gave me courage to come up here today. I wasn't going to, but I was compelled and I felt it in my na'o to stand up. So the military says they're a coach. Ovo or Shadia Turlip Kabatbat. I am from Hawaii. I live in Puna. So the military says they're cultural and land stewards and that they clean up. I'm just wondering how. Most recently, that I can think back to December 22nd when Mauna Loa was erupting, unexploded ordnance was found on the mitigation road. I can't imagine how many more unexploded ordinances there are that are not discovered. You mentioned quick responses to fires. I sure hope so. The military causes them. Multiple brush fires. In 2022, the PTA burned excess of 10,000 acres. And I'm just going to share some facts that I feel are important to mention while I'm up here. Native Hawaiian girls represent a disproportionate number of missing children in Hawaii. This was released by Hawaii News Now in December 2022. More than 1/4 of missing girls in Hawaii are Native Hawaiian. This is alarming considering that Hawaiians are already a minority in Hawaii, and the fact that we make up more than 1/4 of missing people is alarming. Now you're probably sitting there thinking, what does this have to do with you? Well, 38% of men arrested for trying to have a sexual encounter with a 13-year-old online have been active duty military. And this was published by Hawaii News Now. So with that being said, I'm here to say that I am for the no action alternative, no release renewal, ho'i ho'i aina, land back, bodies back. Mahalo.
Mahalo nui. Oh, that was perfect timing. Mahalo nui. Number 80, and I think this is the last ticket we have pulled. So 80, and then just show of hands, is there anybody who didn't have an opportunity to testify that would like to, that doesn't have a ticket, or is there an 81 ticket? No? Okay. Then you might be last.
Aloha mako. Hello. We know, my name is Mominu Uhivaim from Hilo. We know that Oahu Circuit Judge Gary Chang ordered the state to provide a written stewardship plan, regular monitoring and inspections, inspection reports with recommendations and procedures for addressing violations and debris removal plans. We know that the Hawaii State Supreme Court ruled that the fake state of Hawaii, has not properly managed lands leased to the military on the Big Island, and that part of the military's lease states that DLNR must monitor activities and ensure that trash and unexploded ordnance is removed. The 101-page ruling notes that the large parcel of land was once part of more than 2 million acres owned by the Hawaiian Kingdom. Those lands were transferred illegally to the fake state of Hawaii, and most are managed by DLNR. I believe, thank you for talking about Public Law 103-150, for reconciliation efforts need to occur, beginning with the renewal of all lands going back to the Hawaiian Kingdom. And any lease monies that have been incurred, they need to go to the beneficiaries of these lands, the Kanaka Maoli. The Hawaii State Supreme Court ruling also mandates that the state must make reasonable efforts to preserve and protect the land and develop a land for on-site inspections. The plan must require the military to follow all directives of cleanup and monitoring. We've already heard how unsuccessful the military has been historically in Hawaii in cleanup. You do not have a good record here. The EPA also gave a lot of testimony on the subject of range of contamination for DU, the mention of white phosphorus. We know that Pōhakuloa is one of the places for training that uses its training in order to do war against countries like how we're funding the war for Israel. And white phosphorus is being used there against the Palestinian people. All of these weapons that you guys are using and testing here in Hawaii affects not only our people, it's affecting people around the world in a very obscene and degenerate way. I do not support any extension of any leases to the military in Hawaii for the reasons that so many have provided here. You must pack up your things, clean up your mess, and leave Hawaii alone. Mahalo.
Mahalo nui. Okay. Is there an I don't think there is, but is there an 81? Is there anybody who has not gone that would like to provide testimony? Okay. Please just state your name. Is there anyone, oh, sorry. Is there anyone after this? Okay. Okay.
Aloha.
Aloha.
My name's Kalia Avery. I've lived in Hawaii for 45 years. I came from America, and I was a child of the Vietnam War. And I knew from a very small age that the military was not our friend. I moved to Hawaii, and I've been very grateful for all the Kanaka Maoli for welcoming me, for treating me with respect and kindness. And I have learned so much since I've lived here about how they were treated. And basically, America came in with a bunch of businessmen and stole their nation, and they were backed by the U.S. military. The U.S. military has poisoned the lands here. We do not want you here. It's time for people to really tell the truth about the history of Hawaii and hear that the people need to be heard that live here. These are a strong people, and as much as America would have loved to squelch and squash, these people are strong and they are coming back and they are rising up. And as we can see from these beautiful children that have spoken tonight, we have such a great future to look forward to. And we hope that that future does not include you on Pōhakuloa or any other beautiful place that is a respectful, spiritual place in Hawaii, which is all of Hawaii. So please pack your bags, and we don't want you here anymore. Mahalo.
Mahalo nui. Whoever was next, please. And just please state your name.
Hello, Kako. I just have a few words to say to you. A couple months ago, Mauna Loa erupted. You all recall. She's tired. She's hurting. Her foundation. All I have to say is, next time, heads up. Aloha.
Paula, can I get your name, please? Just your name.
Kapayala Kalapaya.
Mahalo nui.
Mahalo.
Aloha mai kākou.
Aloha.
My name is Rabi Ann Shimose, and I'm a middle school counselor. So I'm going to speak to you from that perspective. Every day in my school counseling office, or most every day, I have students who come in to talk about situations that are happening to them, social situations. And one of the things that we talk about and we educate our students about is bullying and harassment. And simply, bullying is when somebody repetitively does something to you that you don't want done to you. And no matter how many times you tell them to stop, they continue to do it. That's just the simple definition of bullying. And so if we look at that definition, and if we look what people here have said tonight and for decades, you're bullies. And people don't like to play with bullies. And the recommendation that I give to my students is you report bullies and you keep reporting it until you get some sort of, you get help and the bullying stops. And so simply put, we don't want to play with you guys. You need to leave.
Mahalo nui. Anyone else who has not spoken that would like to provide testimony in person? Anyone? Okay. Thank you, all of you, for staying past the time. We know you have families and things, so thank you for being here. Uncle, can you close with Pule? You can have my microphone.
Pulikako, Miko Mako Mako Yoko Kalani. Our Heavenly Father, we thank you and for allowing us to be here to hopefully have the military understand that what was shared tonight was truly the compassion and the feelings of the people here in Hawaii. We thank you for allowing us to be here to agree to disagree. And whatever plans that the military has to do in hoping to remain here after 2029, we leave that all up into your hands. We ask for traveling mercies as we leave here tonight for all of those, including those that have come to give testimony and those that just came to listen. This I ask in the name of your Son, Jesus. Amen.
Mahalo nui. Again, if you have thoughts tonight, the phone lines are open till tonight, 808-515-5518. Otherwise, your written testimony can be submitted to June 7th. Thank you very, very much for coming and sharing your mana'o. Everyone, please get home safely. Aloha.